Our next step is to sew the sleeve side seams together. So this is the little short edge along your sleeve, or if you are doing the long sleeve version, obviously it'll be the longest edge that you'll need to sew. And you'll need to place the wrong sides facing, so you can see, wrong sides facing, and start at the top there again, so we can always adjust the hem but not have an uneven join where we need to join the sleeve to the bodice. So we'll just use 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Trim our seam allowance back to around about 1/8 inch, and then we will press and go ahead and sew again at another 1/4 inch from the other side. Of course, if you are doing a serged version with your overlocker or serger, you will just need to remember that the seam allowance is 1/2 inch, and you would just trim as you go with your overlocker. But we are doing the French seam version, so we will need to trim our allowances to make sure it all goes together well. Once pressed, we just take our sleeves and we sew from the wrong side, just like we did with the bodice. Just stay stitch at the beginning and end. And we just repeat with our second sleeve, and you'll now see once again we have beautiful finishes outside and inside. We'll just give that a press and repeat for our second sleeve. We have 2 sleeves. Our next step will be now to press for our sleeve hems. So I'm just going to show you how we need to hem the sleeves, and whether you're doing the long sleeve or the short sleeve, the hemming process is exactly the same. And what we'll do is we will first fold the hem over approximately 1/2 inch. Now with this, I would actually, even though it's not in the pattern, prefer to do a memory press, because it's far trickier to press once you've sewn a sleeve, particularly if you're doing a small size. So before sewing that French seam, I would press the 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch, as it makes sewing the hem a lot easier later on. But the pattern has asked us to hem after sewing, so that is what we are doing. And so you just have to do it very carefully, which is especially awkward while trying to film yourself. Be careful not to burn yourself. However, pressing is very important when sewing, as it gives us lovely crisp edges. So once we have pressed that first 1/2 inch, we then go ahead and fold 1/2 inch again and press that 1/2 inch again. Don't try and film yourself while doing it if possible, as it is much easier not to bend the iron around this way. ta-da! Done! So now you'll have a pressed hem for your sleeve, and we will go ahead and repeat for our second sleeve, and then we will stitch. So after pressing our sleeve hems, I've just popped a couple of pins in just to hold it. The best way to sew around the hem, I find, is to turn the sleeve inside out, and then and most machines will allow you to just pop off the little covering that goes on the end, and then you can put your sleeve around it, and so that you won't, or the other way, we won't drive over our sleeve if your sleeve is wide enough to do this. So we'll need to sew approximately 1/8 of an inch away from our edge, and if you are choosing to put elastic into your sleeves, just leave about 1 inch gap at the bottom of your sleeve for inserting elastic into a little bit later. Again, start with a stay stitch, just carefully sew around. As I will be elasticating my sleeves, I've just left this little gap so we can insert the elastic into it a little bit later. And I will just repeat the process with the second sleeve.